underground facilities can't yet be assessed. But the Trump administration is calling it an incredible and overwhelming success. Russia's former president said that multiple countries are poised to provide Iran with nuclear warheads, and now we can say it outright. The future production of nuclear weapons will continue. Dmitry Medvedev, now the deputy chairman of the Security Council of Russia, said in a Sunday X post. A number of countries are ready to directly supply Iran with their own nuclear warheads, he said, but didn't list specific countries that might pitch in and support Iran. President Vladimir Putin offered to mediate peace talks between Iran and Israel on Wednesday. United States officials are sounding the alarm regarding the threat of terror-backed sleeper cells within the country, and a heightened threat environment to the United States was released in a memo by DHS. The warning from the National Terrorism Advisory System did not cite any specific threats, but comes as Iranian officials have threatened retaliation. American citizens are called to be aware of their surroundings and report any suspicious activity, and to pray. Our quote of the day: "Occupy your minds with good thoughts, or the enemy will fill them with bad ones. Unoccupied they cannot be." St. Thomas More. Today is the vigil of St. John the Baptist, and coming up, our saint of the day. You're listening to Crusade Radio Network News.
Have you ever dreamed of being like Brian Kay or Mitter Monday and being a free Farm Friday star? But you know you have no shot at it because you can't tell the difference between a U and a Y-O-U. Well, lucky for you, we have an entire bookstore filled with the books you need to become so passionate for farming, you'll soon be wearing a Brian Kay Calls Me for Advice t-shirt. So learn to grow by growing your library with books by shopping at shop.mikechurch.com.
You may not believe it, but Bram Stoker's Dracula may be a work of nonfiction. Hear it and other amazing tales on Turley's Believe It or Else, Tuesdays at 9 a.m. Central on the Crusade Radio Network, our app, and always on crusadechannel.com.
Today we observe the Vigil of St. John the Baptist, which always takes place shortly after the longest day in the Northern Hemisphere. Appropriately, it captures a sense of light supplanting darkness throughout its liturgy and traditions. For this reason, our Catholic ancestors, who already had a tradition of summer solstice bonfires from pagan days, lit fires on the vigil of the Baptist's birth. Our saint of the day is Joseph Cafasso, who was born in the Piedmont, Italy area of peasant parents and studied at the seminary at Turin. He was ordained in 1833. He continued his theological studies at the seminary and university at Turin, and then at the Institute of St. Phronix, and despite a deformed spine, became a brilliant lecturer in moral theology there. He was a popular teacher, actively opposing Jansenism, and fought state intrusion into church affairs. He met Don Bosco in 1827, and the two became close friends. It was through Joseph's encouragement that Bosco decided his vocation was working with boys. Joseph was his advisor, worked closely with him in his foundations, and convinced others to fund and found religious institutions and charitable organizations. Joseph died on June the 23rd at Turin and was canonized in 1947. His feast day is today, June the 23rd. A big yacht plowed into a dock in New York City over the weekend. Nearly a dozen people were injured on Saturday after a mega yacht carrying hundreds of people struck a dock on the Hudson River in Manhattan. It was just after 4:15 when the New York City Fire Department received a call for the yacht with about 400 people that had struck a dock at 130th Street in the Hudson. 9 people were taken to local hospitals with minor injuries, according to officials. You're listening to Crusade Radio Network News. I'm Janet Huxley for the Crusade Channel, seeking news and finding truth.
The Crusade Channel, your news, talk, and Fiorella file station. Fiorella reads and reviews so you can read and purchase with confidence, 9 to 10 a.m. every Monday on the Crusade Radio Network, our app, and always on crusadechannel.com.
We obliterated Iran's nuclear capabilities are obliterated. Okay. Fast forward 30 hours. Iran's nuclear capabilities are partially kind of messed up. 12 hours later, Iran, they did a good job of hiding the uranium. We don't know where the hell it is. We don't know where the Ayatollah took the rockola. Now, if you're an American and you happen to be in Qatar, you're under a shelter-in-place order because apparently that joint's about to go up in flames. But, folks, you should feel better and sleep and rest easier. The NeoCONS tell us all is well. Mike Church Show here, asking the question of the day.
What in the wide, wide world of sports is going on here?
You're safe! The world is saved!
The security and continuing stability.
You ungrateful rubes!
The Republic will be reorganized into the first galactic empire!
No, you can't! You dummy!
Society!
So I'm calling on Congress to pass these reforms, and I'm going to sign them into law. You call down the thunder, well, now you got it. You tell them I'm coming, and hell's coming with me, you hear? Hell's coming with me!
All right, our call-in line telephone number, if you'd like to be on the program, 844-527-8723, 844-5-CRUSADE. Email address, I am KingDude at protonmail.com. Crusader Stadium chat room open at crusadechannel.com/chat. This just out moments ago. In 48 hours, the rhetoric has gone from demanding nuclear non-proliferation and mocking the possibility to suggesting that more authoritarian nations need nuclear weapons. Makes you wonder about the real motivation of the initial war demands. This is Mark Levin saying maybe we need to arm the Ukrainians with nukes now so they can strike back at the Russians.
Right.
Are these, do you people... Anyone that goes contra the bombing of the Iranian nuke facilities. What was that? Anybody that goes contra is an anti-Semitic Israel and a Jew hater. Well, let me go first. I don't do loyalty oaths. I don't do pledges. And I live in the great state of Louisiana that just won the College World Series. Woo! And I double in moonlight as an American citizen. I do not bow down to, take orders from, or give any allegiance to any foreign nation. None. I don't care what it is. I encourage all of you not to become Ziontologists. Also, I already have a savior. I don't need one. I need to be better towards the one that I have. And there's nothing in anything this actual savior ever said outside of what was said in the gospel for Corpus Christi yesterday. He that shall eat my body and drink my blood shall have everlasting life. And he also said, my body is true, is meat, and my blood is drink indeed. I don't need anything outside of that. I don't need to grovel and throw my Ziontology, Israel first prayer mat down, drop to my knees, and face west or face east. These people are psychopaths, folks. You know, I looked it up this morning because I wanted to see what Scientologists got out of being a Scientologist. And there's a couple of things, mainly practical things that you get while you're alive. I didn't do that deep of a dive into it because I was wondering, and then I was asking the question, what does a Ziontologist, what does a Israel first, America kind of first, but not really, I must defect and protect and defend with my life the seat of and the place of salvation and rapture in the world, Israel. What do they get out of it? You don't get salvation. I'm assured that the gospel told me yesterday where salvation and from whom is to be found. And it ain't from anyone flying a white flag with a blue star on it. Now these lunatics that... now, I'm still holding out hope that this is a 4D chess move and that President Trump just went along with this so he could shut up certain individuals, which I think is a lousy provocation or a lousy justification for it, and that there is more to be learned. Folks, in the first 48 hours afterwards, almost everything that we know, you could just scratch it. The story and the narrative has already changed from when we went on the air this morning at 6 a.m. and it's 11 now. Story is already changed. As a matter of fact, the Wall Street Journal was waiting to drop this story about how, well, we may have damaged Iran's nuclear capability, but we did nothing to long-term mitigate the threat because now it's part of their culture. UN Atomic Energy Chief says significant damage likely at Fordow from U.S. attacks, but nobody knows. Nobody knows. So then you get this from Kristi Noem moments ago. If you haven't seen it, pay attention. This is, where did it go? Do you have it? Because I can't find it now. It was on my Twitter just a moment ago.
You gotta give me a hint.
It's the summary of threat to the United States. Stupid window closed. And you can't print anything out from these blasted social media companies. I don't want you printing anything. I don't want you doing anything other than scrolling and just being hooked and getting endorphins. Summary of threats to the United States. The ongoing Iran conflict is causing a heightened threat environment in the United States. So we neutralized the threat to the homeland. This is the NeoCON excuse. We had to act because Iran was literally 61 seconds away from assembling a nuke and launching it at San Diego. There was a grave threat to the United States and the homeland. We had to act. The president exercised the War Powers Act powers. We were under grave threat. Well, actually, we weren't, but now we are. See how this works? The ongoing Iran conflict is causing a heightened threat environment in the United States. Well, was there a heightened threat environment on Saturday afternoon? Asking for a friend. Low-level cyber attacks against U.S. networks by pro-Iranian hacktivists are likely, and cyber actors affiliated with the Iranian government may conduct attacks against U.S. networks. Iran also has a long-standing commitment to target U.S. government officials if used as responsible for the death of an Iranian military commander killed in January 2020. The likelihood of violent extremists in the homeland independently mobilizing to violence in response to the conflict would increase likely if Iranian leadership issued a religious ruling calling for retaliatory violence against threats in the homeland. Well, gee, why would they want to issue a threat to activate sleeper cells that are here in the homeland? And wait a minute. I thought we neutralized the threat. I thought the threat was so grand that it could not admit a delay. Multiple recent homeland terrorist attacks have been motivated by anti-Semitic or anti-Israel sentiment. And the ongoing Israel-Iran conflict could contribute to U.S.-based individuals plotting additional attacks. Duration, issue 22 June 2025, and expires September the 22nd, 2025.
All right, terrorists, you got a month.
So, no, they got 3 months to kill us. But prior to Saturday, apparently we were good. We were good to go, but now... Folks, you can't make this stuff up. But then again, who would want to make it up? Then there is this. Mark Levin is upping his attacks on Marjorie Taylor Greene. I tried to get him to attack me so that he could leave Marjorie MTG alone. And I know that narcissistic... He is. We dealt with him. For those that don't, you know this, right? The greatest radio producer in the history of radio producers. Tell everyone to go. I don't want to drag you into this. We have dealt with this clown before. And 2011, Levin's friend Jeffrey Lord wrote a piece about how it doesn't matter. Levin got involved and did an entire 3-hour show. Mark Levin, this man's deranged, okay? You people that throw money at this guy is not your friend. He's certainly not a friend to your children and peace in the United States. This man has never met a war that he didn't want us to get involved in, and he is most certainly an Israel firster. And that's fine if you want to be that, but then you use your media platform to go after people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and people like me. Which many people remember. You know, I saw the thread on Twitter today. Someone was mentioning me. No, it was on Instagram, and said, "Well, Marjorie Taylor Greene, don't think that he's going to go away. He did this to Mike Church and Kevin Gutzman in 2011, and he didn't just go away. He used an entire 3-hour radio show to do nothing but make fun of me." And to basically call me a neo-Confederate, America-hating. I can't. Look, I didn't listen to any of it. And I didn't take the bait, and I won't take it today. I'll just tell you, Marjorie Taylor Greene, the best policy is just to be silent. Say nothing but yes, sir, no, sir. Take the high ground. Let your people know that you took the high ground. And Levin will never disappoint with the Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey comment that no one ever went broke, underestimating or overestimating the good taste of the American public. So take the high ground is the only way to deal with this guy, and he will eventually go away. He'll find someone else to beat up and scream at, because that's what he does. So now we're under a terror threat. We don't know where the nuclear fissile material is. Not sure if the 3 sites were obliterated, because the Israelis are still bombing them today, or trying to bomb them. And now the homeland of the United States, now you and I are under a threat from a terrorist attack from an Iranian. But all this had to be done so that we had national security concerns, and things must be, we had to stop the Iranian nuclear threat once and for all. Well, that was not accomplished. And if that was the goal and it wasn't accomplished, you know what they're talking about now? You watch, by the end of the day today, by the time you get to Hannity's show tonight, on never-ending war, bomb, kill, Fox News, by the time you get to the end of the day today, there will be calls to send U.S. Rangers or SEALs or Special Ops to go into Iran to go find out if there is any nuclear material remaining, and then to go kill whoever it is that's guarding it and do whatever it is that you're supposed to do with it. I was loving the comment that I saw from one of the NeoCONS that was cheering this on. We vaporized the uranium. We destroyed it. I'm like, you can't destroy uranium. Do you people, are you watching science fiction movies again? I'm sorry, science fiction movies. When you drop an incendiary device on a blob of uranium, I don't think it gets vaporized. And I don't think that, how are we going to deal with the uranium? We'll bomb it. How are we going to deal with the fallout? We'll bomb it. I don't think bombing radioactive fallout kills it. Maggie O'Connell just posting just moments ago. Well, actually, this is from this morning.
What is?
The disclosed.tv. 6 super tankers carrying crude have performed U-turns in the Strait of Hormuz in the last 24 hours. What's the oil prices doing? We were going to check it earlier today, but the market wasn't open when we were on. I'd be curious to see more. Meanwhile, Trump posted, everyone keep oil prices down. I'm watching. You're playing right into the hands of the enemy. Don't do it. Now Trump's out there demanding that the markets not pay attention to the threat that he and his neocon buddies have unleashed upon the United States and the rest of the world. Looks like it's actually down. $73.76. So it started at 75.5. So, well, that's good news, actually. And I wonder if the threat is, well, okay, if you close the Straits of Hormuz, the price of oil is going to go up. Now, is that for WTE, West Texas, WTI, West Texas Intermediate Crude? Because the spot prices are usually, you got WTI, West Texas Intermediate Sweet Crude, then you got Brent Crude, and then you have, that's usually the two that we see here in the U.S. is the Brent and the West Texas. Not sure if the Saudis and the Middle Easterners follow the same market price. So keep an eye on all of this. Meanwhile, there's no, let me get back to what I was saying. Now, the next call is going to be, we have to send American special ops in. Well, why do they have to be American? Well, we got to make sure. Got to make sure what? Well, that we got the target. Well, why can't you just look at the satellite pictures? Well, we can, but we can't really tell whether or not we took out the bomb-making facilities. Do you think that they're just going to let you in there? No, we're going to have to kill and shoot our way in there. Won't that escalate the conflict? Yeah, but not really. But no, it doesn't matter. Yes, no, maybe. Why can't the Israelis do it? Why do you have to send American commandos in? Now, to be clear, if you're wondering, they haven't called for this yet. This is probably going, if the question can't be answered of where the uranium is or where the enriched uranium is, and whether or not the Fadro facility or the Natank or the other one, the Isaha, whether or not they were actually permanently put out of business or not, why does it have to be American boots? And this is already being suggested by warmongering neocon talking heads. Then we have this. This is from the American Conservative Magazine website today. It's time to get out for good. Iran, of course, will have a say in what happens next. Tehran will inevitably retaliate, as many options, including targeting U.S. military personnel in the region, disrupting traffic to the Strait of Hormuz, or executing cyber or terror attacks in the Middle East or outside it. As Iran's leader weigh their options, Trump should take clear and decisive steps now to encourage Iran towards de-escalation, which they are kind of trying to do, which is why he kind of stopped taunting them with unconditional surrender and this and that and the other. By the way, if someone did this to the United States, what would it do to your resolve? What would it do to your resolve? It would probably make you more resolute. They can't do that to us. Only we can do that to us. What are these lunatics on Fox News and Newsmax and all these other independent outfits out there? Why do they think that the people of Iran, see, they've been under the Ayatollah since 1979. That's 46 years. Why does anyone think that the Israelis and the United States lobbing some missile ordnance into the country is all of a sudden going to turn people into revolutionists? And what are they going to revolutionists to do what? Or they can install a new regime. They have two choices: secular Muslim rule, religious Muslim rule. Currently, they're under religious Muslim rule. Previously, with the Shah, and the king, they were under secular Muslim rule. Nothing changes. 99% of them remain Muslim. Christians are a tolerated micro minority. Nothing changes. So have a revolution towards what? Oh, we want what Hillary Clinton promised in the Arab Spring. What, you want your women to be running around half naked and a third of them turn into lesbianism? You want to murder your babies in your hospitals now? Oh, genius. We must have a different Middle East. Why don't we leave the Middle East alone and just stay out of it? What is this idea that we have to be going around the world in search of monsters to destroy, in the words of John Quincy Adams, and that everyone must conform to what the American mind of reality thinks everyone ought to be doing? What if people don't want to be like us? You know, quite frankly, in the status that we're in right now, I can't understand why someone would want to be like us. Well, they'd want to have all the things, the trappings of freedom. Freedom? You're being told that if you leave your house, be on the lookout. Trump should reiterate the limited nature of the U.S. military action and declare clearly that during the recent social media posts, the United States does not seek regime change in Iran. Second, while immediately moving U.S. service members out of the region might leave them vulnerable, Trump should immediately order recently surged fighter aircraft, or as you know them as super high-tech jet fighters, and air tankers back to their home bases and redirect the second carrier strike group back to Asia. And then this piece is basically calling for, why don't we do what Rand Paul and Ron Paul and many others have been calling for years, which is bring the troops home. You know, I'm going to get into the next segment of why we have a Navy. Why is there a U.S. Navy? The U.S. Navy was not conceived as a war-fighting machine. But I'll tell you all about it when we come back.
When President Trump attempts to make America great again, we'll be there for you with the best with live coverage and commentary in media on the Crusade Radio Network, our app, and always on CrusadeChannel.com.
This is a pixel. I'm through. If you put a couple of million of these guys together, you can make a sentence on an LED screen. Put a couple of billion of them together, and you can make a whole page. Put 360 billion, and you've got Joseph Pierce's A History of True England. But it doesn't smell like a history of true England, and it burns teeny little holes in your cornea. So, is the pixel really your friend? I'm Groot. No Groot, but the Founders Trading Post is your friend. And we have actual books with actual smelly pages. Plus, our little bookstore has everything you'd expect. I'm Groot. Yep, we got Sacred Heart flags, Groot. But no to the One Tree Hill sappy guitar music.
Pick up a copy of Joseph Pierce's True History of England, plus a dozen other Joseph Pierce titles at shop.mychurch.com.
Hello, Crusaders. I'm Janet Huxley at the Crusade Radio Network News Desk with your Crusade Crucials for Monday, June the 23rd, 2025. This report is brought to you by Cookin' with the KingDude Seasoning Trilogy. There's your favorite beast and butt rub, Acadiana Steak Seasoning, and the new Chicken Mamu Lemon Pepper and Herb Seasoning, available for one low price at shop.mikechurch.com. In the market report, the Dow was up slightly, 0.08%, but the S&P fell 0.22%. NASDAQ was down 0.51%. In National Day calendar news today is National Pink Day, exploring everything that represents. Would have been curious to find pink used in fabric or decor during the Middle Ages. Occasionally, it was seen in women's fashion and religious art, and in the 13th and 14th centuries, artists sometimes portrayed the Christ child dressed in pink, the color associated with the body of Christ. It's also National Pecan Sandies Day, Detroit-style Pizza Day, and it's National Hydration Day because we all need to be reminded to make sure we're drinking plenty of water when we're in the hot summer sun. Our quote of the day, occupy your minds with good thoughts, or the enemy will fill them with bad ones. Unoccupied they cannot be. St. Thomas More. Today is the vigil of St. John the Baptist, and our saint of the day is St. Joseph Cafasso. You're listening to Crusade Radio Network News.
You won't hear anything about Monday's coming or fruitcakes, but you will hear the most brutally honest Catholic-inspired commentary on Parrot Talk, weekdays after the KingDude at 2 Central on the Crusade Radio Network, our app, and always on crusadechannel.com.
How you doing? All aboard that's coming aboard. A freight train of truth is leaving Constitution Station. I had to change it. Mike Churchill was on this portion, sponsored by the Founders Trading Post store at shop.mikechurch.com. That's shop.mikechurch.com. Take advantage of a great sale going on this week. The book is called The Lost Mandate of Heaven by Jeffrey Shaw. It's all about the CIA's assassination of No Dim Vin. CIA wasn't done after they killed Kennedy. Then they went after the leader of, I might have that order backwards, the leader of South Vietnam, because he was fighting hard to keep South Vietnam out of a war with North Vietnam, and the CIA couldn't have that, so they killed him. They went over there and they actually killed him. Get the book, The Lost Mandate of Heaven, with all the other great stuff, including my rubs and my cigars and Maggie's Handmade Rosaries and too many other books to mention. And our coffee selection, the best selection of small batch gourmet coffee anywhere in the world. Shipping is free if you spend $50 or more. Shop with us today. Support the Mike Church Show on the Crusade Radio Network. Shop.mikechurch.com. Play the Bannon Marjorie Taylor Greene clip here. Just a couple of minute or so of it, because it's taken from the show. It's not edited, and it's long here. So she said something about, well, you know what? She didn't say anything about Levin. Levin said something about her, called her a nitwit. That's what it was. And this nitwit, this stupid MAGA nitwit, who doesn't know anything about the Middle East and doesn't know anything about Jews, and doesn't know anything about the greatest state of Israel. Here's what her response was to Levin calling her names.
That was
You feel,
extremely
by the
hard
way,
to listen.
did you sleep better last night as a nitwit?
Oh.
Did you sleep better, nitwit, because of Mark
That's
Levin?
a nitwit.
Well, that's quite some name calling from one of Fox News hosts. It was hard to listen to what he was saying with all the screeching, which is why most people I know don't watch his show. But no, I didn't sleep better after NeoCONS and warmongers talked this administration into entering a hot war that Israel started after Netanyahu barely won a vote. Steve barely won a vote by 2 votes. In order to stay in power the day before Israel attacked, an unprovoked attack, Iran. Now, I'm not making apologies for Iran. I have no investment in the terrorist regime of Iran. But the reality is no American slept better after America bombed Iran, because all of a sudden we now have threats on our homeland. We now have warnings from our State Department for Americans
that's
overseas.
the stress talking.
Qatar put out a warning to Americans to shelter in place. Americans in Israel are terrified for their lives, as well as the Israeli people are terrified for their lives because bombs have been falling in Israel. And and Americans all over the world are seriously questioning, is this going to be World War III? So no, I didn't sleep better, regardless of Mark Levin's silly name calling. And I don't think any American is sleeping better after this, Steve.
What's going to happen? You're coming back. Everybody's coming back. They're going to be here tomorrow. You guys are going to get briefings. What's going to happen? Are other voices going to get in to start advising the president, ma'am?
Well, I got to add on one more thing, Steve, and I'm sure you've covered it on your show. Mark Levin was one of the biggest never-Trumpers when President Trump was running for president.
True story.
It absolutely makes me sick. It makes me want to throw up in my mouth that he's one of the voices that is constantly texting and calling President Trump's phone.
She's talking about in 2015 when Trump came down the escalator, and because of the things that he said about the stupidity of the Iraq war at the time, Levin was like, "You can't have this man as your president. He'll get us all killed." And now you have Ted Cruz, who is out there now taunting Tucker Carlson. "You, Tucker Carlson, you anti-Semite, and you're just your little small, tiny intellect. You're nothing compared to mine. And you lost because you were against the bombing and I was for it, and it's the greatest, most glorious bombing in the history of great, glorious bombing." Ted Cruz. "I was at the forefront of being a traitor against my own country. I took a vow of loyalty to Israel." Seriously, Tucker Carlson did not want the United States to engage in this bombing. I argued that we should stop Iran from developing nuclear weapons. You failed. You failed. Again, you got to wait 48 hours, so that'll be tomorrow. And then the actual damage of what was actually done will then be better. No one knows right now, but what is now being said and what the satellite images are showing, yeah, it looks like the bunker busters blew some holes in the ground. Not the Superdome-sized craters we were told that they were going to blow in the ground. I don't know if they got down below the 300-foot line where they had to get down. I had a friend of mine yelling at me yesterday, going like, "You don't know what you're talking about. Those things are made to go down there and get those bunkers. That's what they're constructed for." And like, dude, they poured like a 20-foot thick dome of concrete rebar and lead or whatever over top of that thing. What are you talking about? So in any event, it's not known, but the International Atomic Energy Association or Consortium or whatever the hell it's called is saying that it can't detect any radiological material. So where did it go? Where did it go? If they didn't take it out, and the reactor sites don't look like they're completely and totally destroyed, well, then what was this for? What was the purpose? And if it is discovered, because the Israelis have been hitting the Fadro site all day long today. If it's discovered that the sites survived, what do you do next? What do you do for an encore? You actually send an actual nuke? (844-527-8723). I told you I was going to tell you what the Navy was for. Well, what the Navy is for today, apparently, is lobbing Tomahawk missiles into other countries. It's for conducting warlike activities against other countries. You know what the original purpose of the Navy was for? Well, it was several purposes. We could probably break it down into three. First is to defend the only coast the United States had at the time the Constitution was ratified, which would have been the Atlantic coast, right? The East Coast, was to defend the Atlantic coast from incoming sailing vessels from foreign nations that may be under or may have hostile intentions. That'd be one. What would the second purpose of the Navy be? Well, the second purpose of the Navy would be if in the off chance it would ever there would have been a war, and a naval power was needed to conduct war activities at sea, or maybe even special activities in other lands, like President Jefferson had to do in 1803 with the Barbary pirates in Tripoli, then you would use it for that. But these are rare occasions. What's the third and primary, or I say equally important purpose of the United States Navy? Well, in 1787, if you were growing or manufacturing something in one country, and you were going to sell it in another country, how would you get it there? If you were separated from that country by sea, by ocean, by bay, by whatever, how would you get it there? You'd have to sail it. You'd have to put it on a ship, a sailing vessel. And okay, so as you put it on a sailing vessel, how would you get it there safely? Well, the easy or the shortest answer is that you would have a navy. So the purpose of the Navy was to ensure safe passage of American goods on the high seas. It would also be to ensure safe passage of goods from countries like France or Spain or whatever that were headed to the United States. And once they got close enough to U.S. water, to see to it that that sailing vessel wasn't ransacked or attacked or taken over by pirates. Okay, this just in. So, in the U.S. Constitution, you can see what I just told you, because in Article 1, Section 8, Congress has the power to set the punishment for crimes that happen on the high seas and for piracy, to punish piracies. So, pirates primarily are not stealing battleships. Pirates are stealing ships that have people on them to sell as slaves and goods on them to sell to claim the goods and to sell them as their own. This just in, according to disclose.tv, Iran launches missiles toward American bases in Qatar, say Israeli officials. Then there is another report that explosions have been heard at the capital of Qatar, which is... No, wait a minute. This is just a surgical strike. We didn't want any warlike actions. We were just trying to take your nuclear capabilities out. Why are you picking on us? The report now is that I'm looking at it in real time. 6 missiles have been launched towards U.S. bases in Qatar. Where the base is evacuated. Was this part of the 3D chess that Trump was playing? Are there any U.S. servicemen that are there? Heaven forfend that they are, because if they are, then there will be obviously an escalation, because then we're going to say, well, look, they went after our troops. Now we have to return fire. The man that campaigned on keeping us out of stupid wars, fought in the Middle East, in Asia, now has us on the precipice of doing exactly that. Instigating, not joining this time, instigating another war in the Mideast. My Lord, help us. 844-527-8723, 844-5-CRUSADE. This is all as a response to Operation Midnight Hammer. And let's see here. What else do we have? Play digital media file. What did we get to today? I think we got the most of it. We didn't do any of the Hexas clips.
This is video of it.
This is video. If you're watching on YouTube or on X.com, this is supposedly live video of the missiles that are incoming into Qatar.
Yep.
And, okay, these guys are standing on the ground. I don't know where they are. Looks like there are missile defense batteries that are shooting them out of the sky. And again, is this part of the 3D chess? Did the Iranians make some sort of an agreement with Trump saying, okay, well, what can we shoot at? You can shoot at the base in Qatar. I'll get them all out of there. There's nobody there. We'll probably blow most of your puny little ordnance out of the sky because you're puny, okay? You have nothing compared to America's great patriotic weapons. So,
that was American Patriot missile defense.
Okay, so that's what. So we are looking at Patriot missile defense systems in action there. I was just curious. Only a matter of time. Now, if they are just intercepting those missiles and none of them actually hit the ground, then the theory from this morning that there may be there may be having a deal that was made, and Trump may have said, "Look, I got to get these NeoCONS. I got to get them off my back. We gotta make it look like, let's end this escalation. Let me just drop some ordnance on your nuke sites. You probably won't take them out. You can get your stuff out. We don't want any dirty bombs." And in exchange, what?
The U.S. base in Doha. DOHA?
So the base in Doha, Qatar, is what is being attacked. Play Digital Media found number 7 from this morning. That's J.D. Vance saying, no big deal. We're prepared for this, is what he basically said today.
What we're prepared for is if they attack us in a maximal direction, first of all, we have got maximum defensive posture. I think that we're going to be able to defend as many of our people as possible. And of course, I'd encourage Americans to pray for our guys in the Middle East because, yes, they are under a significant amount of duress and a significant amount of threat right now. But then, of course, John, if the Iranians attack us, they're going to be met with overwhelming force. And I don't think the president could be clear about this. If you look at what we did yesterday, John, we did not attack the nation of Iran. We did not attack any civilian targets. We didn't even attack military targets outside of the 3 nuclear weapons facilities that we thought were important to accomplish our goal of preventing Iran from having a nuclear weapon. So how Iran responds, I think, is ultimately the ball is in their court. But if you look at what we did, it was very precise, very narrowly tailored to our objective. And if the Iranians decide to expand this, then that's ultimately their decision, and the President of the United States will respond in kind.
And again, if you're lobbing whatever missiles towards the military base in Doha in Qatar, do we know what's at that base in Qatar? It's probably just is that an Air Force? Is it probably Air Force? I would imagine. And you can, if you're to believe that file footage or that footage that is being shown by OSINT Warfare is legit. Then those missiles are being intercepted. They're being blown out of the sky. None of them are blowing up on land. So continuing to keep an eye on that. And I'm just going through some of the other headlines that I had from earlier today. Let's see. Is MAGA still on track after the escalator ride 10 years ago? This is from Brian Jundepth at The American Thinker. I don't know, is it?
They're saying that's a relatively small base.
Okay, so the word on the street is that the base in Doha in Qatar is a small base, not a large installation, which again, now remember what I told you, what Jeff Childers said earlier today. And how do you get this? How do you get to this to this station where you think that maybe there is that there was some planning beforehand from Trump and the Iranians? You could get to that by what he did in 2020. In other words, there's a script for this. So in 2020, Soleimani, the Iranian general that we desperately wanted to kill for his previous crimes against American citizens and the other acts of Muslim orthodoxy that he had perpetrated. We're talking about, or it was being said back then, after Soleimani was killed, it was said, well, the Iranians need an attack, and they're going to retaliate. And what supposedly happened was that Trump made a deal with the Iranians to say, look, I want you to get your retaliation so you can save face. So you look good and big and bold and bad in front of your people, but don't kill any of my people. I'll tell you where you can hit. You put your missiles here. It won't kill anyone. It'll look like you destroyed a bunch of stuff, but you won't hurt anyone. And you'll save face, and I'll save face, and then we'll just we'll go back to negotiating, and then we'll get a deal. And that's what happened back in 2020. So is this the script that they're following again? I don't know. Los Angeles cops scrambled to delete embarrassing and offensive post about Iran strikes. Oh, and then we have this. Oh, how did I forget this? There's a story in the New York Times. What we know about the Minnesota shooting suspect, Vance Belter, who is suspected in the attacks on two Minnesota politicians. What do you mean suspected in the attacks? He assassinated them. Was taken into custody after a major manhunt. You all know the story. State officials had pursued the suspect, Vance Belter, 57th, through the weekend on June 15th, blah, 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 blah. As investigators have tried to piece together what led to the shootings on June 14th, details emerged about Belter, a father of five who worked for decades in the food industry. In a video he posted online, he described quitting that industry to work on agricultural projects in Central Africa. More recently, and then there's more on that. Here's what we know about the suspect, and then they get some of the the biography. Does he have a connection to the victims? Mr. Belter had served on the state economic board with one of the victims, State Senator John Hoffman, who survived the shooting, though it is unclear if they actually knew each other. Belter was appointed to the panel by Tampon Tim Waltz in by Mark Dayton in 2016. He was later reappointed by Tampon Tim. Belter and Hoffman attended a virtual meeting together in 2022 for a discussion about the job market in the aftermath of the coronavirus pandemic, blah, blah, blah. Current and former members of the board said there were a handful of meetings each year, and there was often no direct interaction with the governor. One said the governor had not attended any of the group's meetings in her 4 years that were there. What were his political affiliations? And there's some on this. Carlson said the guy that was his roommate, the fat slob that couldn't wash his hair and couldn't comb his hair and take a bath before he knew the world's media was coming to interview him, said he knew Belter since the fourth grade. Belter had been experiencing financial and mental health challenges. Don't forget, this guy lived behind an 11-acre compound in the suburbs of Minnesota. Why was he living a dual life where he was living in an apartment in town and then also with his wife and 5 children in this 11-acre compound outside of the city? He was a doomsday prepper, according to investigators. There was a story that was going around earlier that it cannot be confirmed that Belter supposedly supposedly sent a letter to the FBI telling them, look, let me tell you everything that I'm about to do because I was trained to do it. I have seen nothing that corroborates that in this story here. Someone even sent me this story and told me, dude, you got to see what's in this story. Authorities say the assassin disguised himself as a cop wearing a ballistic vest. You already know this. After the cops responded to the home of Senator Hoffman, finding that he and his wife Yvette had both been shot, they decided to check on Representative Hortman. Of course, they encountered the assailant, who said fled on foot after an exchange with gunfires with officers around 3:30 a.m. Inside, the police found Ms. Hortman and her husband Mark dead. This completely countervenes, by the way, the story that was told by Police Chief Brooklyn Park Police Mark Bruley. When Bruley originally said that when the cops got to the house, that Belter was coming out of the house, and that his car, his cruiser, was still in the driveway with the emergency lights going. That changed to no, he was at the front door. It was closed. There was no corpse that was laying on the ground, which Bruley had previously said. The eyewitness cops told him. Now, here we are 9 days later. No manifesto. Supposedly there was a manifesto. Not a single body cam. Not a single dash cam. Nothing to say anything about the attack. And you have two completely different versions of the story. So what in Hades is going on here? Well, like the case of Audrey Elizabeth Hale, will we ever find out? I don't know. The Nashville shooters, who that is. Folks, we'll see you tomorrow for the Feast of St. John the Baptist. Shop in our store, shop.mikechurch.com. Have a safe and blessed remainder of the day. God bless you and Mary keep you.